Hello everyone, welcome to Demo Time. Raise your hand if you've been to Demo Time before. All right, now I have some exciting news for you. In my very, very biased opinion, one of my favorite startups is presenting today. It's Grokkoli. You might wonder, what the hell's Grokkoli? That's what people normally think when they hear Grokkoli. Sounds like broccoli. That's where it came from. Eric will explain more. But yeah, so a lot of folks don't know that Las Vegas actually has some really brilliant engineers working on some things that you've maybe never heard of before. Yeah, so what we're gonna do, we're actually gonna have a live demo of software that's already being used right now to help with education. So I don't think there's really anything much more I need to introduce about that. After that, I'll present a little bit about what I'm working on now, and then after that, if anybody has anything they'd like to share or talk about what they've been working on, then we'll be open for that. So without any further ado, big round of applause for Eric with Grokkoli.
Thank you. Hi everyone, so I'm Eric MacKinnon. I'm co-founder of Grokkoli. Grokkoli it's a math tutoring AI that's helping special needs learners catch up multiple grade levels in a matter of months of using the system. So what do I mean by that? So I'm just trying to anchor this in a concrete example. We had a learner, age 11, enrolled in grade 5, had been taken out of the general population for about 4 years, had been paired with a special academic instructor. That instructor had 9 students total to work with. They also had a number of tutors that were helping them out. Despite all of those accommodations and all of that help, this learner could not add 7 plus 5 together when she first joined the platform. So our system placed her sort of midway, just maybe about 75% of the way through grade 1, based on how she was doing on the system. In the first just few months, she ended up improving about a grade level and a half. She got midway through grade 3. And in the space of 10 months, so it's a little bit more than a calendar year, but in the space of 10 months, she ended up getting up midway through grade 5. So she actually caught up 3.5 grade levels in the space of that time. This kid has a cognitive impairment, level 2 autism, ADHD, and bipolar disorder. She was not nonverbal. She did speak. But this is sort of like the range of learning challenges that this kid was dealing with. And so, yeah, I have here like it's an 18x if you treat how fast she was learning at school. Basically, had done 75% of a grade level of a space of about 4 to 5 years of schooling versus the rate at which she had with us. That's sort of that's the multiplier that you end up getting with. In terms of our numbers, so we are still relatively early. We've had about 90 paying families use the system, but they've collectively generated 10,000 sessions. There's almost 500,000 questions answered. We have a very good free-to-paid conversion, particularly with special needs families. And you can see that from our population stats that we massively over-index on this particular category. We have about 6 to 7 times the representation of a wide variety of learning disabilities and learning differences. And almost all of them are learning, it's not entirely, but almost all are learning multiple times faster than non-special needs learners are expected to learn in school, allowing them effectively to catch up with the general population. The graph on the side is not updated. My apologies, I didn't have time to regenerate that, so that's like from about a year and a half ago, I think. So one thing just to say, I'll do the demo in a moment, but our system actually, to this day, does not use LLMs for any of its math instruction, basically. We are playing with LLMs now, but we're more interested, sorry, I think I am touching the bottom there, that's the problem. We are playing with LLMs now, but we're more interested in creating a kind of like emotionally intelligent companion layer to sort of help the kid sort of reimagine what it is they're doing and imagine that they're actually on a good path, that they're making progress, that that math might be hard for them, but they're putting in the time, they're putting in the work, and they're getting somewhere. that's actually a huge part, sort of like the self-limiting beliefs part is actually a huge part of why some of the learners don't see as much progress on our system as others. It's feeling like the pedagogy side is no longer like the major limiter, and it's feeling like more like self-limiting beliefs are the next sort of big barrier.
So if I may interrupt slightly. So how wild is it to think that someone with learning disabilities can learn math faster than students are expected to learn math? To me, that just blows my absolute mind. And so why wouldn't they have self-limiting thoughts, right? We tell public schools, here's the rate at which you should learn, and this is a good rate, and they're blown out of the water. So I can see why you got to beat against that wall.
Yeah. No, it's actually well understood. And there's the academic researcher. Her name is Carol Dweck, and she's done a lot of work on growth mindset. And literally at the level like under MRI, kids' brains light up very differently depending on what they believe about themselves while they're learning. So this is very well researched, very well understood stuff. So all of what you're about to see, none of that is powered by LLMs. During Q&A we can talk about, I'm happy to kind of like dig into like why that's the case. There's a lot of reasons, but one thing that's nice is one thing I'll just say now is I'm pretty sure that we could sell into schools at the compute cost of LLM interfacing AI solutions and still run a relatively high margin business in the process. So there are advantages to, there are a lot of pros and cons to either of these. I have recently been talking to school districts. I've only had the chance to speak to about 7 districts so far, but 4 of them spontaneously asked for pilots within 5 to 10 minutes of seeing the demo. It's going to be pretty much the demo I'm going to show you here today. The limiting factor for me, of course, is just getting in front of more superintendents. They are not easy, not easy to talk to. And one of those pilots is wrapping up now. We didn't get like a huge number of kids. It's a total of 13 kids that did at least 10 sessions on the system. But these are the learning rates, and you can see the one factor sort of as a dotted line. That is the typical classroom rate. And you can see the number of kids that are sort of well above that, but there are some kids that are below. And the vast majority of our attention now is on those 3, basically those 3 use cases. And my co-founder and I, we basically spend about half of our time just reviewing learning sessions and trying to sort of understand what's going on for the learner and figure out how we might be able to better help them. And so there's, especially student M there, the 13th learner that was like the least improving, that learner will definitely benefit from help with self-limiting beliefs. So that's basically what's next for us.
Well, and I'll say one of the things that I've noticed as you've been working on this and as we've talked about it, and I love Eric to pieces. Him and I unfortunately do not talk every week, so I'm sure there's lots of pieces I miss. But you've repeatedly pointed to the fact that you're looking back at the data as folks have been using it to really iterate it based off of actual use and interaction.
Yeah, that's like, it is unbelievably hard to get some of these kids to learn. The kinds of things that you have to do for them to make connections, it can be surprising. One of the things you see in this space is a lot. You go in with ideas about what will work, and they're good ideas, but you try them out and they don't work for any of 100 reasons, and you can eventually get them to work, but you absolutely have to be digging right into the details. You're like, you have to call the parents and say, like, what was happening? Was the kid paying attention? Like, you need as much information as you can. And if you do that, and you do that diligently, you will end up with a system that will work, but it will not just be your theory. It'll be your theory plus 100 little tweaks and things that you could never really plan for up front. My co-founder and I spent better part of a year and a half just seeing these kids on, like that learner I was presenting earlier, Autumn, her name's changed obviously. we spent 2 months just fixing things for her, and on a daily basis, like texting and emailing her parents. Because we honestly, at that point in time, we didn't even know our system could help her, because she was like a very, very serious case. She had 4 learning differences basically. It's just a lot to deal with, and so that's the only reason the system is doing what it's doing today is because of that 1.5 years that we spent. It was very painful, but it was the most important thing that we did. Good. Shall I jump into the demo? Yeah. Okay. So this is the actual.
Well, how friggin' cool is it to make a math tutor that excels with the students that have a hard time learning? That is like the biggest mindfuck to me. I spent a lot of time doing product development and new markets and all this other stuff. And the conventional wisdom is start with the unified, easy problem for the mass market and ignore the niches. And here, it kind of, and I think we did hang out shortly after you had started unearthing the speed at which, I think it was at that point in 3 months she had caught up 2 years or something. I forget what it was, but not the full 10 month. Yeah, and at that 10 month mark to catch up, how far?
It was 3.5 grade levels.
3.5 grade levels in under 12 months. Holy shit. And so people are like, Josh, why are you excited about the future? I'm like, because I haven't seen an upper limit of what we can do yet. What we've seen in the last 2 years with language models is crazy. But again, and this bears repeating, Grokkoli isn't based off of a language model. It didn't, that's not where it started, and that's not how it's running right now. Like anyway, I get super excited. Let's see this demo, man. Let's see it.
Yeah, and by the way, I'm also happy to talk about the business side as well. But obviously, the edtech space it's a blood red ocean. There's thousands of solutions. So you really have to, the only way to play is to find a way to stand out. And yeah, so it's we specifically wanted to go after the really hard use cases because we believed that our system could help in those areas where other systems would not be able to, and we thought it would just be the best sort of test and kind of I don't know, I guess signal that this was a quality product. It actually helps the hardest cases, and that would be a way for us to stand out. So.
Well, and one of the other things too, and I'm sure it'll be more obvious in the demo, a part of this, the way you've engineered this has not been, let's take what we're doing now and make a version of the same thing digitally. It's, we have better tech right now that can interact and do stuff in real time. Let's build a better way to teach and do that, not just repeat what we've been doing and do it in a digital fashion.
Yes, yeah. I don't know if this crowd will be interested in getting into a protracted discussion around pedagogy, but I've done a lot of research on what's effective, and there's actually a lot of we actually know a lot about what's effective. If we end up if anyone wants to nerd out about that, I'm happy to chat with you about that. But I want to make sure that there's interest before I dig into that. And yes, the pedagogical, there is a very honed pedagogical approach that is different with our system than almost any other any other learning software that I'm aware of, at least. Yeah. Okay, so this is a system walkthrough page. The reason we created this is I can talk about the product and I can describe all the things that it does. I will then give teachers or parents or whoever access to the system for them to check it out. And it's possible, because the system does so many things, it's possible for them to spend sort of an hour in the wild testing it and not necessarily see everything that I've talked about. And so just to make sure that they believe me, I wanted to create a system walkthrough page, and this just has a bunch of different examples of the things that I mentioned, and that way they can see that it does in fact exist. So the first thing I will show is just our immediate sort of in context guidance that we provide learners as they're answering a given question, and this, by the way, is actually closest to what most sort of LLM interfacing tutors do. I consider it to represent maybe somewhere around 15, maybe 20% of the pedagogical efficacy of our system, but it's what other people think of most readily as being what a tutor does, and so I end up showing this a fair bit. So what you're about to see is the system, when it does these kind of guides, it's trying to give the learner what it thinks is the least amount of orientation that learner needs in order to answer the question correctly. Okay, if a given explanation is not working, it will go deeper, it'll go heavier. But otherwise, it wants to sort of like draw your attention to things. It wants to sort of orient you, but it doesn't. As much as possible, it doesn't want to give the answer away, and it wants to do the least amount of cognitive heavy lifting on your behalf, right? And so, with a question like this, you can imagine if a kid were to answer with 60, you can probably guess what the kid's doing wrong here.
Wait up. Did you see this symbol?
Okay, by the way, first, did everyone hear that? Okay, good. Just to make sure the sound is coming through. So notice that it didn't say, hey, this is a division symbol. Okay, it's just like, did you see this? It's just trying to draw your attention to it. We want the kid to be like, oh, that's a division symbol, right? We want them to make that sort of discovery on their own. But if I get it wrong again, I think it will tell me. Let's see.
Careful. This is a division question.
Yeah, so it's just getting a little bit more explicit as you go. If you keep getting it wrong in the same sort of underlying way. I can also let's answer in a very weird way. And sometimes kids will do this sort of thing. This would suggest that the kid is sort of either just like hazy or forgotten the underlying concept. So let's just see what happens.
Division means splitting things equally among groups. In this question, we want to split 54 into 6 groups and figure out how much will be left in a single group.
Okay, yeah, and notice obviously visual elements popping up, appearing, they're relevant to the question at hand. This is referred to as just direct instruction in the world of education, and special needs learners need like just a tremendous amount of direct instruction. They just need a lot of repetition. They just need a lot more than your average learner. I have to do a quick reset here just because the system will go into troubleshooting, which is I'll show you in a moment. But I just want to show more examples of what the system is able to do first. So let's imagine the kid here. The answer to this is 6. Let's imagine the kid answers with let's do 5. Let's see what happens.
Did you check your answer by multiplying it by 8 and seeing if it makes 48?
Okay, so I guess multiplication, triangulation, like check your work type of strategy is being suggested. Let's get it wrong again in a similar way.
Let's think about your answer a bit more this time. 7 times 8 is not 48. It's 56. Which is bigger than 48. So not only can the answer not be 7. 7 is too big, since multiplying it by 8 gives us a quantity that is too big. So the correct answer must be smaller than 7. Can you figure out what that is?
Yeah, so it's the same as before. It's that multiplication sort of check, but obviously a much heavier one with a few more tips in terms of how to think it through and how to use that to sort of triangulate your answer. By the way, I can also so the answer is 6 in this case. We can see what happens if a kid does this. This happens a lot, by the way.
Oops. Did you type your answer too fast?
Yeah, so it can recognize misspellings as well, typos effectively. So that's in a nutshell. That's sort of just giving an example. Like obviously, this is available across all different question types, but it gives you an idea of the kind of inline support that kids are able to get with our system, and it's most similar to sort of what a lot of the LLM interfacing tutors like Conmigo do. The difference is that our system, obviously, you can see it's wiggling specific elements on the page. It's introducing new visual elements or new elements to help the learner understand things. So it's less sort of like a bolted-on feature that kind of just talks to you, but it's more going to manipulate things within the question itself. That is exceptionally important for kids with it helps all kids, but kids with learning disabilities really need that level of support. If that level of help is not enough for a learner, the system will do it's kind of like troubleshooting diagnostic style explorations with the learner around a question that they are struggling with. And so I'll show you an example of this. I'll have to get this wrong. I don't like that example. I like the examples. Yeah, this will be a good one. So So this is addition. This is addition. It's crossing a range of 10. This may seem like a trivially easy one for us, but it's actually pretty hard for kids that have not memorized their math facts yet. And you're basically, what you have to do is you have to sort of imagine, okay, 7 plus 5, how much does 7 needs to make 10? That's like, needs 3, so if I take 3 from 5, I've got 2 left over, so it's like 10 and 2, it's 12. It's kind of like, there's a lot of mental activity that goes on. This is a crux point skill, and it's like about 80% of what you learn in kindergarten and grade 1 leads up to an ability to be able to answer this mentally without having already memorized the answers. So I'm going to have to get this wrong a couple times. We're going to see some guides, but I want to show you what happens if I continue to get it wrong. And yeah, we'll go from there.
Do you remember what 7 needs to make 10? And if so, can that help you find the answer?
Okay, so it's trying to orient the learner towards thinking of thinking of how to regroup that 5.
If you know that 7 needs 3 to make 10, that can help you find the answer. Because 5 is 2 more than 3. So the answer must be 2 more than 10.
Okay, so that's that heavier version of what we just got. Let's get it wrong one more time.
Can you imagine 7 plus 5 on a number line?
Okay, so that's a very heavy, showing a visualization in this case is a fairly heavy guide. But let's imagine that's still not enough, and the learner is still struggling.
Don't worry. Let's explore this a little more.
Did you want to say something, or do you want? I can keep going. Yeah.
No, keep going. I was just adjusting myself.
Okay, so what you can see here, this is basically, there's a lot of scaffolding to help the learner understand how to break down that 5 into that, into like basically we want them to break it down to the 3 and 2. What 7 needs to make 10 to make the entire like addition a little bit easier for them. But we can get this wrong, by the way. Like this is just like one of the first checks that it's doing, and it's just making sure like can the kid do this. If the learner gets this wrong, it will go. It should go in even deeper. Let's get this wrong a couple times.
Oops. Does 7 plus 2 make 10?
Let's put this in here this time.
Oops. Does 3 plus 1 make 5?
And we can get it wrong one more time.
That's all right. Let's explore this a little more.
Okay, so what this is now, it's basically like really guiding the kid through breaking down that 5 into the 3 and 2. This time it's using blocks. There's a clear sort of dotted line at at the 10 point where it seems to be split, and your job is to basically pull up these digital manipulatives up into the spots where they're supposed to be. And again, this is maybe a little bit on the easy side for this particular learner, but yeah, your system is just like wanting to make sure that the kid can really sort of anchor those quantities and see that 5 getting split at the 10 point. Let's get this correct and let's just see where it takes us.
Good work on that one.
Sorry, I'm forgetting to point my microphone down. Okay, so now what we have is still that splitting, but with a visual aid. Obviously, you've got like the blocks below that are helping. But that's wild. Is it? Am I losing my?
Well, it was briefly back, and then.
Okay, are we back now?
Yeah.
Okay, it was just this thing was coming out. And by the way, at any point, like a lot of these kids have reading challenges, so at any point they can hit play, and then they can basically have the question read to them.
Well,
7
Sorry.
plus 5 can be split into 7 plus something plus something.
Yeah, and a lot of these kids need that level of direction.
All right, so show of hands, how much more interactive does this look? Like, so if you had the option of the way you were taught math, or you had the option of doing this self-guided, raise your hand if you would have rather have this as an option. I'll be honest, we got some haters here. We got some haters. That's all right. That's all right. Maybe 7 plus 5 for these fine people isn't as much of a challenge.
You just forgot what it was like when you were 6. It was hard. Yeah. So yeah, look, if I can get this wrong. If I get this wrong, it'll likely do an isolation. But I won't show that right now. But we can get this correct. If I get this correct, it will likely.
Done on that one.
It'll likely bring me back to this is the symbolic version. We had this before. And if I get this right, I think the last thing it'll check would be like the 7 plus 3 plus 2.
Nicely answered.
Yeah, so here you basically have like the addition of 3 numbers, making 10 along the way, and we can get this correct. And if we get this correct, we should get returned to the original question that throws for a loop.
Well answered.
Yeah, so this is the original question where we started. What we find with this, just so you know, is like it's a little over 90% of the time, kids will, as you walk them through this, kids will get to a point where they make a mistake, then they get it right, and you can see now they're going to answer everything correctly and quickly. It's sort of like they realize, oh, this is what I did wrong. I get it now. I understand the answer is actually 12, and you can see like they answer correctly and very quickly. So you can kind of see that they're kind of like excited to go back and correct their original mistake on their own. About 7 to 8% of the time, we uncover basically like a skill that is very fuzzy, a precursor skill that's just not solid, at least not solid enough yet. And then when that happens, the system can basically temporarily block the skill that they were on, load up this new skill, make sure that it's part of, in the reinforcement schedules, so that they're working on that. And when the system thinks they're ready to go back to this, it will unblock that skill for them and then work on that with them. I can, by the way, I have more. I can keep sharing stuff. How are we doing so far? Is everyone still interested?
All right, let's do this. Let's do this. Let's do a little Q&A, or do you want to wrap up, or do you want to?
No, Q&A is
all right.
fine.
Any questions? Okay, now I'm gonna lay down a rule. I have to rule down every time. This isn't a hard gig, but the one rule is, in order for this video to be heard on the internet, I have to bring this mic. So even if you think the room can hear you, please speak into the mic. Here comes.
Thanks. It's a compelling demo of what you can do with technology when we don't have enough people resources, right? Like our educators are strapped. This is incredible. Thank you. On transparency, what are the kind of things you learn about the decision making? What are the parents learning? Is there anything that's helpful for like instructional value there that you could give to educators? I'm just curious what kind of things you've learned on those insights from your transparency.
Oh yeah, so interesting. Yeah. Well, I mean, one thing I could definitely say is, so one of the big educational theories out there is CRA. It's concrete representational abstract, and that's that you. So I should lay down caveats first. The world of educational theories is a very interesting one. You get camps forming, then you get like the kernel of an idea, which is a really good idea, but then you get all sorts of flavors added to it, and then and this, for example, I mean, there's the constructivists, and I think they're dead right about sort of like the core of what happens. Constructivism simply says that kids basically build their own understanding in their minds. And like everything we know about cognitive science right now suggests that that's absolutely the case. But when you look at the camp that they're the constructivists in education, they stress things like starting with the big picture and then narrowing down from the big picture. And it's sort of like, there's no reason to associate that. Like, there's no need to marry that particular flavor or that particular perfume with like the core theory. And so you get all sorts of like weird stuff. So that's just the first thing to be aware of. I'm going to talk about CRA. For whatever reason, the people behind CRA, they're really, really adamant that you have to start with a concrete. So it's like literally like physical manipulatives. You're holding macaronis, or you're dealing with marbles, or whatever it might be, right? And only once you're proficient there do you move to sort of representations of those marbles. So that'd be like what you see here. Like if you see circles or blocks or that kind of thing, you can't physically touch them, but they're there. That would be the representational side. And then it moves to the symbolic, right? The truth about the way kids learn is that they need to kind of go all over the place. They need to kind of be able to go back, go forward. But for whatever reason, the people, they're like really big on like this very, very linear kind of progression. I'm a big believer in CRA in like the largest idea, it's the most global idea, and not any of its like very highly specific and highly programmed forms, basically. And so what I can definitely say is we definitely see that like the use of manipulatives would be super helpful. anything I would recommend, like if like for teachers in classrooms using our system, I would recommend teachers spend a lot of time using physical manipulatives in addition to the system. Like this is just a belief that I have. I can't point to any science on it, but I am sure that there is a tremendous amount of neural activity that happens, and neural connections get formed when you're holding, like 6 marbles in one hand and 2 marbles in the other, and you're feeling the weight difference, and you feel what it physically it's like to hold them, and you place them, and you just placed one, and now your hand feels a little bit lighter. Like I think there's a lot of stuff that we can take for granted there that is happening, and so I am personally a big believer in concrete. Like physical manipulatives, and I would definitely recommend, I do recommend that to almost all the teachers I speak to if they ever ask me. Yeah.
Well, and one other thing too that Eric shared with me while he was on this journey was that some of the teachers were learning math along the way as well by using the software. So we can upgrade the workforce and supplement the workforce at the same time.
Yeah, I have had some teachers, I've had some teachers say, "Oh, that's a really good way to explain it. I'm going to use that." Like I've had cases, yeah.
Oh, that's how that works. Thanks, guys. Way to go. Public educators, we got to pay them more. Okay, who else has questions? Who else has, oh.
Hey, Key.
Hi, thanks for the presentation. I had a question without giving away proprietary info. What about your system accelerates the learning that much faster than regular learners?
Right. So this is just like a really weird thing, and I don't know why more ed tech companies don't do this. But the most important thing for learning is to actually be able to recall and reform concepts in your own mind. Okay, so almost all software out there around education, almost all of it, you get like a tutorial or a video or something that's effectively warming up your working memory. Okay, so you're basically getting your working memory preloaded for you by the learning program, and then you answer a handful of questions related to that. All of that is actually relatively easy, and it's not the principal muscle that you need to be training in order to do this. Our system spends between 65 to 70% of its time with kids in spaced repetition. So we basically do variation drills, okay? And so the moment a kid has some foothold of proficiency on, they've just been introduced to something, they've gotten a couple questions correct, we will very quickly ask them a question from 10 minutes ago. By the way, this is very hard to demo, so it's sort of like this is why I didn't share it. But you ask them a question from 10 minutes ago, can they still recall the question at that point? Can they still answer it? And it's no problem if they can't. Like the system can review it with them. It's okay. But by doing that, you basically wipe their working memory of the new concepts you just showed them, right? And so going right back to the question that they were able to answer successfully 30 seconds ago, and seeing if they can reform it in their minds, that's the real activity you want kids to be doing. It's like if you're trying to train your bicep and you're doing like some other exercise. It's got nothing to do with your bicep. You know what I mean? Like that's what, like doing 10 questions in a row of the same thing. That's effectively what it is. It's extremely inefficient. And everything else that you've seen, everything that I've demoed, that's in order to get the kid into a state where they can do that. They can get into that sort of spaced repetition work. And yeah, so that would be, I attribute at least 50% of our system's efficacy to the way it handles spaced repetition.
Another real quick question. Do you calibrate students? Are they calibrated once they are brought into the system? Because depending on their learning difficulties and whatnot.
Are they calibrated? Can you just describe what you mean by calibrated?
I'm saying this: is the system calibrated to the student? Do they do an intake and then
an initial assessment?
Yeah, initial assessment. Yeah. So the system basically does a very. It's not there's in EdTech there's assessment software where the kid will spend 3 hours doing just answering a tremendous amount of stuff, and they'll pinpoint everything, and you'll get a multi-page report as an output for the teacher. That's not what our system does. What our system, combination of things, but like the highest level is basically kind of like a stochastic algorithm. You're trying to sort of, cut the difference in half and sort of pinpoint like a good starting point for that learner. So if they answer a question that's they answer incorrectly, the question will get significantly easier. If they answer that correctly, it may come up and it'll try to find something. It's not quite as simple as I'm describing, because you have to do some contouring, because a lot of kids have like major learning gaps. So you want to find like a solid spot to start. You want like at least 3 consecutive skills that are solid. You don't want just like they happen to be able to answer this one thing correctly. You don't want that. And then the other thing that's challenging is you don't want the kids' first experience in your system where like they're answering, let's say, 3 or 4 questions incorrectly in a row. So you have to do some things to try and make sure that's not happening. But yeah, effectively, we can about like at least 95% of kids we can find a suitable spot for them within about 8 to 20 questions based on that initial honing algorithm. And the other thing that's sort of, the other way to think of it is that our system is also, in a certain way, it's kind of like continually assessing the kid. Like assessments are never really done. It's just always doing that in the background. It's always monitoring for potential confusion. It's kind of continually doing that. Yeah.
All right. Who else has some questions for the Grokkoli man? The Grokkoli man. All right. Round of applause for Eric, everybody.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you.
Let's see what we got. Oh, you did a great job. You did a great job. All right. So I have a presentation I'm going to give. But before I do that, does anybody have anything they're working on they'd like to take a few minutes and chat about? Demo time's meant to be an opportunity for everybody to come up and share. Sounds like a no. All right, more of Josh. More of Josh. So, was anybody here last month when I did my presentation? No. Oh, you guys missed out. I almost should do it again. I kid. All right, so the graphic I have here is of a mountain climb. And I actually realized that the graphic on this was from a different presentation I did. One of the things I do to try to save myself some time and energy is copy some slideshows and adjust things. So 5'11", we've heard of 5'11". Tactical 5'11", what does it mean? Well, 5'11" is the rating of a climb that is defined as so difficult that it is, it's described as difficult, if not impossible, even with experience and training. So these are things that are so challenging, they may or may not even be possible. So, while back, I had a project blow up in my face in a very exciting way. I managed to get a lot of international recognition, not necessarily for positive things, but it did show off extreme competence. I also, a bunch of years ago, I built a multi-million-dollar company from scratch, put $1,000 on a credit card, went out and lived the American dream. And I thought, boy, that was cool. I built $1 million company, but you know what would be even more cool? $1 billion company. And I looked in the mirror and I was like, I don't know how to do that. And I thought, what if I did 1,000 million-dollar companies? I did one of those. So that's sort of the premise between Project 1000 here. So about 4 years ago, I started my latest company. It's called BigTB. Partially because I have bigtb.com, and I figured having a 5-letter .com is pretty cool, should probably do something with it. The T and the B are for technology builders. It's actually BigTB Corporation, so it's amorphous on the filings, but that's always big technology builders. Now, the mission of BigTB is specific, it is intentional. This is not word vomit we're looking at. These are things that I've internalized. The mission of BigTB, see, I can do it without even looking. It's to democratize access to information, technology, and opportunity. The reason why that's important to me is I grew up a poor kid in a poor town. And when I was 34, I bought the 6th fastest convertible in the world and could have paid cash for it 2 years before that. Reason why I bring this up isn't because I'm awesome, which may or may not be true, but it's because technology empowers humans to do so much more than they've ever been able to do before. And so I said, well, how can I really run with this excitement? So I started off with Project 20. Project 20 was a pretty straightforward proposition. Build 20 shitty little startups in 20 months. Do one a month. Get good at doing them at a certain velocity. I said, you know what? I think I'm going to need some help. And a part of this was to try to build out opportunity. I said, okay. So in the process of that, I ended up going in a different direction. I ended up becoming what we'll talk about later, which is Project 1000. So as a start question, raise your hand if you know in the terms of a startup what a unicorn is. Okay, see some hands raised. As they know, or at least they claim to know. We'll find out. No, we'll never know. It's a billion-dollar company. Now, there aren't a lot of billion-dollar companies in the history of humans ever. Most of them have happened recently, and they seem to be increasing at an accelerated velocity. In order to create a billion-dollar company, you generally need to have millions of dollars to start with. And that's challenging because if you're trying to make money, you know it takes money to make money. However, if you don't have money, how do you get started? Well, bootstrapping. So bootstrapping is when you decide to put in your own money, your own effort, your own time, and you build it. Pull yourself up by your bootstraps. So, why does no one try to bootstrap a unicorn? Now that we know what bootstrapping is, now we know what a unicorn is, why does no one try to do this? And the fact of the matter is a lot of people try to do it, but very few of them have any credible chance of succeeding because kind of everything that they're going to be beating their head against the wall, they don't have any help with. So part of the reason why folks frequently look for investment in a startup and in a new company is because they want that guidance and support. They need to navigate the lawyers, the courts, the intellectual property, all of these things. So Project 1000 is where I ended up. So instead of trying to do 20 startups in 20 months, it's do 1,000 product launches or projects in a 10-year horizon. And right now I'm in year 4 and we've done in the low 200s. That is a crazy velocity, and I realize I'm patting my own back in saying so. Most of them are loser products. I'm not going to say they're not. Most people struggle to do a single new venture in their career that is profitable, and I respect anyone for trying. What I'll tell you is in the last 4 years, we've had 7 commercial successes. Now, that's a low batting rate against over 200 projects. But on the other hand, in the last 4 years, we're averaging 2 commercial successes a year. Are they big wins? Not necessarily. Some of them have easily potential of hitting a couple $100 million in market share. However, in general, the whole model is built around trying to say, let's try to find good fits for smaller markets and make a portfolio of companies within a single company as opposed to trying to make one bet with one horse. So that's BigTB. The reason why I bring this up,
Demo time, right?
it is demo time.
You got 5 minutes for us?
I'm in the middle of presenting, and yes. Okay, we just had one wheel in, and I get to do a great warm-up on it. So, the premise on BigTB is to say, instead of having a company try to become excellent at a bunch of routine things, what if one parent company basically did the support on everything it can for all of the subsidiary companies or all of the departments? And if you take a look at companies like large companies like Goodyear, Microsoft, IBM, they will split their expenses across different cost centers for things like marketing, legal, whatever else. So this way the whole enterprise can benefit from it without each enterprise having to go out and run it their own thing. So, since we are at demo time, here's what you can expect. Moving forward, if anybody wants to try to build something, hit me up. I can help you build it. I don't care if you're semi-technical, non-technical. If you've got some idea, some project you want to build, my business literally is built around empowering individuals. And the reason why, I'm going to go back all the way to where we started all those many slides ago at democratizing access to information, technology, and opportunity. The economic model on this is really simple. I built a multi-million-dollar company from scratch. Guess what? I only need to do that one more time to retire. On the other hand, there's tons and tons of folks trying to build opportunity. And so what I'm saying is, I don't need to build a billion-dollar company for me to be able to hit the metrics that I need. However, since I've already learned a lot of the skills and have a lot of the expertise to help support multiple product lines, there's folks out there who are non-technical or semi-technical. We're able to help provide infrastructure and coaching on that. So That's Project 1000. If you feel like giving, oh, we have a question. Yes.
Can you name 7 items?
So, you, sir.
Can you name this?
Yeah, you're breaking the rule. That's okay. Now everybody can.
Yeah, could you name the 7 commercially viable items?
I cannot name all 7. However, I'll name some.
Sure.
So, one of them is a product line for DMV shops. So this is a pretty small product line. The entire total possible customer market for it's probably around 150 users. It's only DMV shops in Nevada. However, it wasn't a huge lift. So the economic model that I find most consistent across a lot of these is, imagine there's an industry with 500 companies in it. In that economy, any one of them individually probably does not have the economic resources or budget to justify new tech. However, they could probably justify up to 25% of that expense. Just to keep math easy, let's say $100,000 of tech is what they need. They might have $25,000 of budget for it, but not a penny more. But if you spread that across 100 of them, from the engineering perspective, there's an enormous amount of money to be made there. Plus, they're able to reinforce the product and actually end up getting a better product with the more people in it. So that's one. There's another one, I'm going to be slightly vague about it, but I'll explain the kind and character of it. There's a particular type of industry, they use specific software to manage their fulfillment, meaning when customer places an order on their website, it gets all of the stuff they need from their vendors, manages it, helps them keep track of their whole workflow. Well, there's about 500 companies, maybe 5,000, between 500 and 5,000 that use this type of software. All of them want to do the next step down. However, because it's not a hyper mature market, there's not a lot of APIs where it will connect with all of the other various service providers that one might want. Particularly interesting is remarketing. So what we did is we built a wraparound tool that basically works to extend the functionality of that software to make it so now they can actually do a bunch of remarketing and actually operate their businesses like it's a modern business in 2025, and they can connect and grow. And it's helping small companies basically bridge that gap because their Fortune 100 or Fortune 500 counterparts already have put gazillions of dollars into software, and they're using that as an advantage against them. So a lot of, going back to the mission, BigTB's mission is to democratize access to information, technology, and opportunity. We help small businesses punch way out of their weight class. The third example I'll give is we put together a business consulting tool. And so one of the largest business consultants in the state of Nevada, they're a happy client of BigTB, usually happy, overall happy. And what we did is we took a process they had that took them 4 hours, and we were able to prune it down to 30 minutes. And then we're taking that process and making it commercially viable for them to expand it across everyone that uses their same model, and they're able to basically take what they've been doing on an individual basis and make it a system that literally hundreds of other consultants can use. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
All right. Who else has a question?
That question.
Okay. Hold up. As you know, there's microphone rules here.
That's right.
And I appreciate you abiding by them. It makes for a better experience for me. Yes.
Maybe this is a dumb question, but what's the cost?
There's no dumb questions, only dumb people. What's the cost of what?
The cut. What's your cut?
Yeah, your cut. Equity, subscription fee.
Oh, my cut. My cut?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
no.
assuming you're not doing this.
Well,
you're not a nonprofit. You're not doing
I'm
this
not
for
a
free.
nonprofit,
Yeah.
no,
Yeah.
because no one will fund me.
Yeah.
If I had that sweet, sweet nonprofit money, I would. Yeah, I'll explain the economics on it a bit. So the most I could ever have of any company, we would think is I would say 100%. That math seems about right. So we can't take more than 100%, nor would we want to. Generally, if we look at it, so take a step back from the technology perspective, if we're just looking at it like the portfolio level, I do have like a master thesis. How do you have a master thesis for a 10-year, 1,000-project thing? You can't be too attached to it. It's going to change. I I guess a good marker is we want to keep at least 10% equity on any project that we're touching. I generally don't want more than 90% unless I'm getting 100%, because the difference in work between 90% and 100% is negligible. There must be some really good partnership there. That said, for example, on one of the projects that we have going, we've got a partner who has a deep subject matter expertise in the industry, enormous credibility, enormous relationships with easy distribution. And so when we build something, it gets in the hands of customers soon. Like on that one product line in particular, I've had 10 demo calls. Every single one of them was a qualified customer. 3 of them have paid. And so for that type of relationship, I'll happily do off of that. Like in that case, they're not footing any of the engineering expense on it. It's a rev share deal, and we're keeping most of it, but we don't have to find product market fit. We're not trying, and we've got some interference for like customer support and everything. And there's basically, you could look at it also as there's sort of 2 angles of it. On one end, it's like an incubator where we're building and launching our own products. And over time, that's become less interesting. The other part of it is the accelerator portion more, where we do have like an equity share, where we are like actually partnering. A lot of times there, one of the things that is very frequent actually, and then the third end of BigTB actually is just doing plain Jane service work. Someone says, we want to build a thing, we want to pay to build a thing. My particular area of specialties is I like to build things that have never been built before, especially if there's some reason why it's really hard for people to do it. The presentation I did last week, and if anybody wants, it's on YouTube, was on how I built a website where I hosted a video that was banned everywhere in the world and no Silicon Valley company would host it, but I did, and I didn't get shut down. And I like to do the plug the garage door opener into the garbage disposal type things, plug systems in. And the advantage in particular with me is if you're trying to plug those types of systems together, I've never failed at doing that. Frequently I'm expensive, but that's because that's very specialty work. There might at times only be 5 to 10 people on the planet, my biased opinion, that have the individual disciplinary expertise to do that type of work. Which is a part of why I find some of this other stuff just a lot easier. Let's just do a bunch of it. One of the other things that's been sort of interesting on this journey is because we've done so many different projects, every time we do a project, there's new technology we have to play with. I had a fun little relationship with Python recently. There's a node library for this. It's called JSON 5. It's to convert a JSON, almost JSON, into a JSON. If you don't know what that means, it's fine. It doesn't really matter a whole lot. There's 2 languages. So there's Node and Python. Both have different libraries. Both actually have the JSON 5 library. But the Python one doesn't work for some reason, even though I use Python a lot. So I did what any sensible engineer would do. I wrote a Python script to call it in Node, and then it worked. All that to say, when you're going through plugging all of these things in and working on these different projects, you get a different skill set. So when I start off with Project 1000, I was really looking at these as each one of these is a freestanding thing. And what I've found out is it's sort of been more like a snowball where you keep grabbing things along the way, and as it's rolling down the hill, it's grabbing trees and rocks and frogs or whatever else is on there. So excellent. Any other questions? What else have we got? Okay. Well, Eric Harris is here. For those of you who don't know, he's right over there, he's laughing. I had no knowledge that he was going to be here. I had some idea he would be here because he comes sometimes. I don't know, I see him sometimes, I don't. I see him, he smiles, that's cool, I wish he'd come over. He'd be invited over to my house tomorrow if I would have known he was going to be in town. But I'm guessing because he wheeled a wheelchair in here, I think I know where we're going with this. So with the wheelchair, as you may know, it complicates weighing people. And if you need to get weighed because, I don't know, you're diabetic and they're tracking your fluids and things like that, it's important that it be accurate. So with that as the introduction, I'm going to give Eric this microphone and tell you all the instructions for him. He needs to clip this onto his shirt so this way we can hear everything. And then he's going to have, because he came in late, he's got 10 minutes.
10? Oh, I just needed 2.
2? Oh, man.
It's simple. It works in 30
Okay,
seconds.
well, big round of applause for Eric.
All right.
Come on down.
All right. So, I can speak. Can you all hear me?
Yeah, so I will tell you this.
Yes.
Yeah, they can hear you.
But
the
you can't
camera's
see.
there, and so if you want anyone online to see you, then I would do
How
that.
far online?
How far online?
Yes.
Just YouTube.
Streamed?
No.
Okay, good.
Yeah, it's gonna be edited.
Okay, thanks.
Like a little bit, but not this part.
Okay, that's fine.
All right.
I do have a patent. Patent pending. My name is Eric Harris. A little bit about me.
mic.
Eat the mic. That's true. Okay, fine. My name is Eric. So I used to work at Microsoft, which is fun to say that. I left about a month ago. Saw a lot of stuff happening and wanted to do more with AI. But the experience of being at Microsoft as a product manager was one of the reasons why I got into the space that I was in. Outside of that, my brother. And most of y'all might be thinking, why do I have a wheelchair? Well, wheelchairs, if you have someone that's in your life is paraplegic or quadriplegic, this is pretty much their legs. And even for people that are in wheelchairs, the chance of an amputation is rather high. About 480 limbs per day get cut off due to diabetes or some neuropathy, et cetera. So there's a lot of people that are losing limbs that don't have to. One of the fastest indicators that your body is retaining fluid, you either have the wrong medication or something's going on and needs to be addressed, is weight. But can you imagine how often my brother goes to the hospital or goes to see his doctor to get weighed? A year, guess. It's less than 5 times a year. So literally he goes once a year. So if you're going once a year to get measured, and this actually happened, he gained 15 pounds in 2 weeks. And this is just one example. I have a lot of VA friends as well, served in the Air Force, and a lot of them have issues as well. The reason why this is important is because if my brother and people in the VA had a scale or something that was more accessible than just going to the VA once, twice a year, they could have caught the fact that he was just on the wrong medication dosage. Yeah, that cost him 3 months, 2 bouts of depression, and a whole lot more other issues just because he was on the wrong medication dosage. And it could have been caught in the first 2 days because his weight spiked. We thought he was just depressed and it was just something going on. But we didn't know because we just seen him look heavy, but we didn't know. So that was 4 years ago. Saw that happen and I was like, there's gotta be something to do with it. So I went and did something about it. And through 4 years of research, 4 years of working, 4 years of interviews with more than 1,000 people, I designed from scratch. Actually, the person that designed it with me was a quadriplegic. You would think quad, they don't have access to any of their limbs. Literally, he helped me to design this. Is the first of its kind smart wheelchair scale that also folds. It's not one kind on the market at all. The really cool thing about it, and it's like, well, what does that mean? It means that a nurse could take it to a house. How do most people weigh themselves in a wheelchair? They don't. So if you're not getting accurate information from a wheelchair person, how you give them the right dosage, medication, etc. So this is V1. Well, it's actually more like V5, but do this. It works. It's going to tear itself because it's there, gravity, let it do its thing. And now a person in a wheelchair can easily roll up on it. I've shown this to the VA. I'm not going to show you all my weight. No, I've shown this to the VA. I have a couple LOIs. There's another.
Is that to not embarrass us? All I'm saying is you look trim, my friend. This would be a flex, not an embarrassment.
No. The really cool thing about it, and this isn't about the product, this is what the product can do for a person. So most people, like my brother, and I have a target audience, a niche. I want to go out to people that are in manual wheelchairs, so they still get around a lot themselves, but they don't have access to, they aren't going to the doctor a lot. They care about their weight and the medications they're taking and the food they're eating, nutrition. So I built this to actually sit beside the bed. Why? Well, they park their chair, they literally get themselves out of their chair into bed, morning and night. So 2 times a day, they can get themselves weighed. And it has a mobile app. Also, you see these little metal nodes on here. This can actually capture what's considered as biometrics. Why are biometrics important? Because I can get you visceral fat, body weight, body mass index. Let me go through the list really quickly. There's 18 things that I can grab for you in a matter of 30 seconds. So now I've unlocked information that most people, us, don't even track, let alone someone that needs to track it because they're on medication usually to manage their injury and or whatever else they're dealing with. So this is unlocking more information for them, and at the same time it's also giving them information that they can have an early signal on what's going on in their body. This also transmitted through EMR to physicians. So now this gives the doctor more information what's going on. Hey, I noticed that you gained a couple of pounds. What's happening? Are you sleeping? Are you waking up? What are you doing? So it gives them more information about what's going on and helps them become more in tune with their routine regimen and their nutrition. So that's the reason for this. It was built and designed to go into the home. Think about that. Apple-like product in the home for people that use things that look like this. Imagine that. So revolutionary in that sense, but the other piece of it is that it also brings a peace of mind to them and to the caregiver. So front of mind for the patient, the provider, and the insurance company wants to prevent things. Catch things early, it doesn't cost you as much, saves you more time, saves you more money. So we're going after insurance companies now currently, getting a relationship with them, and then also, like I said, have the VA that I'm working with, getting a clinical trial per se. It's like a pilot program, not an actual trial, because I don't need a trial because I'm not being invasive. So that's the other thing that's that, but being able to get that for them so that they can actually run through it and actually test it out. So curious your thoughts, anyone have questions? It is rounded. That's one of the things that the ADA is like, well, you need to have an edge. I'm actually beating ADA compliance because I'm lower than an inch off the ground, which is lower than the thresholds on most common doors and houses, and then also lighter, and then it's also rounded, so there's no risk of tilting or falling. So I've looked at a lot of that stuff as well. So that's a little bit about the scale, a little about the process. More importantly, the thousands of people that it has already helped. I have video testimonial of people went to Abilities Expo. This is really funny. One of the ladies worked for the VA was like, this is one of the best things ever. This actually helps me. And that type of testimonial is really great to see. She's definitely suffering from a lot of different things, can barely move. And to see her light up with that is something that shows that this does have a value, and now figuring out how to use that value and work with the right people to get it into market is what I'm aiming to do. And I do have the government on my side. In one sense, there's an ADA regulation by August next year, 2026. All medical facilities that deal with people with weighing have to have an accessible way to weigh them. So my thing is I just got to get in the market fast enough before that hits and become the option that a lot of facilities use. So.
All right, round of applause for Eric. So we're going to do it a little different on the Q&A since we're just at the end here. If you have any questions for Eric, he's here. Now, I'll tell you this. This would be a good transition. Come here, Mike.
That's fair.
So, one of the things that I love about Eric is he's showed up to Vegas a ton. He's not even, are you here now full time?
No.
He's not even here full time, but he comes here a lot. I see, okay, here's the thing. One of the things about demo time is at the end, we really do like to make sure everybody can say hi to each other and interact. So with that, one last round of applause for everybody that presented. And thank you for coming to demo time. Please come again next month. That'll be that.
That was a good way to wrap it up. Yeah, that was a spur of the moment. You can thank